This is Reverse Reset Restore, your go-to source for all things related to optimizing your health and vitality and creating opportunities for you to fall in love with your incredible self. Do you feel like you've forgotten how to do that? I gotcha. Come with me as we explore all the ways you can reverse your thoughts, reset your beliefs, and restore your relationship with yourself. Change comes from within. Hello and welcome to Reverse Reset Restore. I'm Sally and this is the third episode in our special 6-part series on the stress hormone cortisol. In our first episode of the month, we dedicate it to exploring the dynamic of cortisol and its impact on various areas of our body. In the previous 2 episodes, we've looked at how cortisol impacts our immune system and its association with weight gain. If that sounds of interest to you, be sure to check out episode 76, Unveiling Cortisol, Exploring its Impact on the Immune System, and episode 82, Shifting the Scale, How Stress Hormones Influence Your Waistline. I've added the links into the show notes to make it easy peasy for you. In today's episode, we are looking at how elevated cortisol levels contribute to high blood pressure and increased risk of heart disease. Here is an alarming statistic which comes from Michael, author of The Estrogen Fix, the breakthrough guide to being healthy, energized, and hormonally balanced, who says, heart disease, not breast or any other cancer, is the number 1 killer of women over age 65 and the second leading cause of death among women aged 45 to 64. Women account for 52% of the 80 million Americans who have heart disease and who die from heart disease and heart attacks. Some sobering stats to start off, and one that had me wondering just how much our stressful lifestyles contribute to disease. Let's think of our hormones as an orchestra, and our bodies are the symphony. Cortisol acts like the first violinist or the concert master or first chair, which is the second most significant leader in the orchestra after the conductor. Just like the first chair in an orchestra is the most skilled musician, responsible for learning music quickly, counting rests accurately, and leading the rest of the string section by their playing and bow gestures, cortisol is perhaps the body's most skilled hormone, at least when it comes to being responsible for learning which situations present danger, providing us with instinct or that gut knowing, and helping to keep us alive when a perceived danger is detected. It helps us navigate through challenging situations. This amazing hormone plays out across all of our bodily functions with survival at its heart. We absolutely need cortisol for our symphonies to sound their best. The role of cortisol is crucial in our fight or flight response. However, when its levels remain consistently elevated, cortisol can wreak havoc on our cardiovascular system, contributing to conditions like high blood pressure and increasing the risk of heart disease. Understanding the intricate play between cortisol, our body's first chair, and cardiovascular health is crucial for safeguarding our well-being. To fully grasp cortisol's impact on cardiovascular health, it's essential to understand its dual nature within the body. On one hand, cortisol serves as a vital regulator of various physiological processes, including our metabolism, our immune function, and obviously our stress response. In acute situations, that cortisol immobilizes energy reserves, sharpens our cognitive function, primes the body for action, ensuring survival in the face of danger. However, prolonged exposure to elevated cortisol levels tips the scales, leading to dysregulation and dysfunction. It's kind of ironic that the thing that's supposed to help us in moments of danger has become the thing that often hurts us because we're living in this elevated stress cycle. Chronic stress, whether it's physical, psychological, or environmental, can disrupt the delicate balance of cortisol production, overwhelming the body's natural coping mechanisms. So this dysregulation sets the stage for a cascade of adverse health outcomes, including hypertension, insulin resistance, and cardiovascular disease. In other words, if we consider cortisol to be our first chair and it gets out of time or out of tune, it impacts the whole orchestral sound and the symphony of our body's health and functions. Excess cortisol levels can be likened to a double-edged sword, capable of both immediate and long-term consequences on our cardiovascular system. Firstly, the elevated cortisol triggers the release of adrenaline, leading to a rapid increase in heart rate and blood pressure. This acute response, while beneficial in the short bursts, become detrimental when prolonged, putting undue strain on the heart and the blood vessels. To complicate matters further, chronic exposure to high cortisol levels can impair their body's ability to regulate blood sugar, leading to insulin resistance and metabolic syndromes and obesity. These metabolic disturbances not only contribute to the development of hypertension, but also pave the way for the buildup of plaque in the arteries, which is a precursor to heart disease. Excess cortisol can also be known as Cushing's syndrome, which has a significant impact on cardiovascular health. Let's talk about some of the ways in which excess cortisol can create cardiovascular problems. Number 1, high blood pressure or hypertension. So cortisol causes the blood vessels to constrict and narrows their diameter, resulting in increased blood pressure. Elevated cortisol levels can also lead to an imbalance in the body's fluid and electrolyte levels, which further contributes to hypotension. Number 2, atherosclerosis. Excess cortisol can promote the development of atherosclerosis, a condition characterized by the accumulation of plaque in the arteries. Cortisol increases the production of low-density lipoprotein, LDL, cholesterol. Often this is referred to as the bad cholesterol, and decreases the production of high-density lipoprotein, HDL, the cholesterol which is deemed the good cholesterol. So this imbalance can result in the buildup of cholesterol in the arterial walls, which leads to the formation of plaque and narrows the blood vessels and can cause a lot of, obviously, big health issues. Number 3, increased risk of blood clots. Cortisol promotes the production of factors that contribute to blood clot formation. Excess cortisol can increase the likelihood of blood clot formation, which can obstruct blood flow and increase the risk of heart attack or stroke. Number 4, impaired glucose metabolism. Now, cortisol influences the body's glucose metabolism, which can cause insulin resistance. Makes it feel like it explains a lot about my life situation. So the cells become less responsive to insulin, and this insulin resistance is associated with an increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes or other metabolic disorders, which in itself is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Number 5, inflammation. Elevated cortisol levels can increase inflammation in the body, and this is one that I feel like I know very well to be true for myself. When I am highly stressed, my long-term neck injury that I have and my hip injury that I've had for years now definitely get worse. They get very inflamed. So I understand that when I'm in a highly stressed or I've got a lot of extra cortisol running around in my body, that inflammation is increased. The chronic inflammation is a known contributing factor to the development of cardiovascular diseases, including heart disease and stroke. This is kind of for someone who's diabetic and overweight and has stress points. I honestly feel like I'm probably I think I've mentioned this before, probably 96% cortisol at this point in my life. And number 6, changes in heart function. So excess cortisol can affect the heart directly. It can influence its rate and its rhythm. It can lead to an increased heart rate, irregular heartbeats, and changes in the structure and the function of the heart muscles, cardiomyopathy. Fortunately, there are strategies we can employ to mitigate the adverse effects of excess cortisol on our cardiovascular health. And I have started to implement these because I want to give my body the best chance to be in its best possible condition. So I think a good quote to live by is start taking care of your heart before it falls apart. As renowned cardiologist Dr. Robert Sapolsky aptly stated, the body can deal with stress up to a point, but beyond that point, it's survival of the most damaged. This sentiment underscores the critical importance of recognizing and managing stress to safeguard cardiovascular health. By adopting holistic lifestyle practices that promote resilience and mitigating the impact of cortisol, we can empower ourselves to take proactive steps towards heart health and overall health and well-being wellness. So what are some of these proactive steps? If you are a regular listener of the show or you read the blogs, many of these will not be a surprise to you. But we're going to go through them again and probably again and again and again because I want you to understand how these tips and techniques, if you start implementing any of them, whatever one sounds good to you to do, it can make a complete difference in your physiology, in your mental well-being, and your life overall. So, firstly, let's prioritize stress management techniques such as mindfulness or meditation and deep breathing exercises, which all help to regulate cortisol levels and promote relaxation. Regular physical activity is another potent ally in the fight against cortisol-induced cardiovascular damage, as exercise not only reduces stress, but it also improves heart function and lowers blood pressure. It's also really good if you are a diabetic to exercise, especially if you've eaten anything carb-laden, to go through a 20-minute walk to help bring your blood sugars down. So that brings us to dietary modifications, which also play a pivotal role in maintaining cortisol balance and supporting your heart health. So you want to consume a balanced diet that's rich in vegetables and proteins and fruits and whole grains or whatever works best for your body. And that may be you have to treat yourself as a little bit of an experiment. For me, I know that what works well for me and what works against me. So all of these sort of foods can help stabilize your blood sugar levels and mitigate the metabolic disturbances associated with cortisol excess. Additionally, and this is a tough one for me, limiting caffeine and limiting your alcohol intake, as well as avoiding overly processed foods high in refined sugars and heavy carb loads and unhealthy fats, can further support cardiovascular well-being. Managing excess cortisol levels typically involves addressing the underlying cause. So you may need to consider other lifestyle factors like work, or your sleeping habits, your relationships, how you react and respond to situations, and your psychological health. There's an intricate interplay between cortisol and cardiovascular health, which highlights the profound impact of stress on our well-being. By understanding the mechanisms underlying cortisol's dual role within the body and implementing strategies that you know that you're going to enjoy, that work for you, we can help cultivate resilience and promote heart health for years to come. Remember, small changes can yield significant results when it comes to preserving cardiovascular well-being. Embrace a lifestyle that honors the symbiotic relationship between your mind, your body, your heart, and pave the way for a healthier, happier future. If you're enjoying this Unveiling Cortisol series and you haven't already, hit that like, follow, subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode where we'll be looking at the role excess cortisol plays in our cognition. You'll also have access to all our other upcoming episodes, including this month's Foundation Friday episode where we are reviewing the book Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by sisters Emily and Amelia Nagoski. As always, we close this episode with a quote. I think this quote serves as a reminder of how often we can compartmentalize ourselves, how we often don't link our body or our environment or our thoughts, beliefs, and social settings together. We do the same thing when it comes to stress. Maybe it's time to look at just how much impact stress is really having on our physical well-being and taking the steps to do something to change that so you can stay here and be your amazing self for many more years to come. Johns Hopkins cardiologist Michael Blaha says, too often, people consider their stress as almost separate from their health.